Welcome to Mystical and Practical, the podcast that demystifies the soul's journey, the spirit world, and spiritual practices. I'm Meli, a past life psychic, certified Akashic Records reader, and channeling coach. Here, we talk about spirit guides, the Akashic Records, reincarnation, and everything that connects the seen to the unseen, all with both feet firmly on the ground. Ready to decode the spirit world and connect with your inner magic? Let's jump right in. Hello and welcome to your Halloween bonus episode number 2. If you haven't watched or listened bonus number 1, you're fine. You can listen to this bonus number 2 and go listen to number 1 afterwards. There's absolutely no problem. So today we're diving into a question that comes up every year. Is the veil between the worlds really thinner at Samhain, at Halloween? So before I share my perspective as a psychic, I want to take you to the source of Halloween, to what people experienced in ancient times and why we still feel something special around October 31st. So Halloween, with its costumes and pumpkins, comes from a very ancient pagan festival called Samhain. And apparently it's supposed to be pronounced Samhain, but I'm just used to call it Samhain, so I'll just call it that way if you don't mind. And among the Celtic people, especially in Ireland and Scotland, but also in Wales and parts of Gaul, Samhain marked the end of the harvest and the official entry into the dark season. The livestock had been brought in, the fields were emptied, and the last stores were shared. And it was a threshold, a liminal moment when people said time and space folded in on themselves. It was believed that the boundary between the living and the dead became porous and that ancestors would return to visit their own. This idea of the threshold is truly at the heart of Samhain. We leave the light and enter the dark, not as a punishment, but as an invitation to introspection, reflection, and transformation. Samhain is part of what is called the Wheel of the Year, which is a pagan ritual calendar that follows the cycles of nature and the sun. There are 8 festivals called the Sabbats, and they mark this movement. In December, there is Yule to celebrate the return of the light and the winter solstice. In February, you have Imbolc that brings purification and the first seeds of spring. In March, there is Ostara, the equinox. We honor to balance fertility. And in May, there is Beltan. It's the festival of fire, life, and union. In June, there is Litha. And if that rings a bell, it's because I did a Litha card spread during that time. If you were on the email list, you got this. By the way, if you're not on my email list, you're missing some of my offerings that I only reserve for my email subscribers. So in June, around Litha, I was offering a tarot card reading to help move through that period. That period marks the height of the light at the summer solstice. And right after that, in August, we have Lugnasad, also called currently in English Lammas, and it gives thanks to the first harvest. In September, we have Mabon, the autumn equinox. It's a time for assessment and sharing. And finally, Samhain on October 31st. It closes the wheel, opens a new cycle, and in many traditions, it corresponds to the pagan New Year. So how was Samhain lived in practice? All the household fires were extinguished, and then a great communal fire was lit outside. It was for protection and purification. And there were offerings. There was food, drink. They were placed there to honor the ancestors and soothe passing spirits. And people wore masks or costumes to confuse mischievous presences and avoid drawing attention. So like I said yesterday, they thought, well, if we disguise ourselves and we look like the spirits, they won't recognize that we're human. They will just think that we are one of their own and they won't bother us. They also practice divination, reading fire and water, casting bones, consulting runes, gazing into a mirror or a bowl of black water to receive omens. And you'll recognize this. These customs left very clear traces in modern Halloween. Let's say carved lanterns, which it used to be turnips in Ireland at first, but now it's pumpkins in America, which is bigger and more practical to put on a candle. Well, now we don't really put candles anymore. It's more like those little tea lights that are battery operated. But yeah, it used to be turnips, and they were used these jack o' lanterns. They were used to light the way and protect. Costumes, of course, remain. Food offerings, they became treats for children. And even some innocent Apple games come from Samhain. So, with Christianization, Samhain didn't vanish overnight, it was reframed. The night of October 31st was linked to All Hallows Eve and the All Souls Day. For many, folk practices continued, but under new names and intentions. Later, during the witch hunts, numerous rites tied to cycles, fire, herbs, and divination were condemned as superstition or sadly associated to the devil. People were accused for practices that, in their culture, were simply ways of relating to the sacred and to nature. And despite all that, Samhain survived through oral transmission, through everyday custom, and in the 20th century, through pagan and Wiccan revival. It explicitly regained its place as a major Sabbath and of introspection, remembrance, and transformation. Now, Samhain also carries a rich symbolic language. We are in autumn under the correspondences of the elements of earth and air. Earth for grounding, air for clarity of breath. Earth helps you settle and sort. Air invites you to listen and to communicate with the unseen. There is also dark colors like blacks, the purples, also the oranges of the leaves, of course. It speaks of the end of a cycle of embers still glowing beneath the ash. Herbs associated with protection and intuition are always there around Samhain, like mugwort, rosemary, and bay, and they often appear in practices at this time of the year. All of that offers sensory keys for entering the right atmospheres. Now, let's talk about shadow. Samhain isn't only about the memory of our ancestors, it's also a time when the shadow takes up all the space. And that's healthy, actually. Looking at your wounds, inherited patterns, the invisible loyalties of your lineage, or even possible past life traumas isn't about wallowing in the dark. It's about recognizing what still weighs on you so it can transform. It's about welcoming shadow. It's bringing it into the light of your awareness. It's also a way to prepare for the return of the light at Yule. You don't have to do shadow work at Samhain, but because it's such a ripe time for introspection, many people naturally feel the pull to go deeper within. Now, in my book, Light and Shadow in Magic, I offer a Samhain ritual to work deeply with your shadows. And that's held by the protection and guidance of your ancestors and your spirit team. Now, as you may see here on the video, well, it's written backward, but it's in French. For now, the book only exists in French, but I'm talking about it here because I know so many of you are bilingual, and some of you are listening sometimes in French and sometimes in English, depending on how you're feeling. So I wanted to talk about my book here. It's a safe step-by-step framework to release blockages and feel a true inner renewal. I won't go into detail here, but if you feel called to go further, you'll find everything you need in this book, and I will link it in the show notes. So let's go back to the big question. Sorry there. If you're listening on audio only, it was my tea break. So the big question is is the veil between worlds, the earthly plane and the unseen world, is it objectively thinner at Samhain? From my experience as a psychic, no, it is not. And I know this is controversial and not everyone will agree with me, but I channel almost every day. And the spirit world is accessible at all times. What changes is our collective attention. When millions of people turn toward the unseen, light a candle, think of their ancestors, ask for a sign, we create an energetic effervescence. Benevolent spirits make the most of that availability to show up more clearly. The spirit world is actually like a radio frequency. It's always there, but most people aren't tuned in. At Samhain, it's as if everyone turns the dial to the same station at once, and naturally the messages come through stronger and clearer. So if you want to mark Samhain, it doesn't have to be complicated. You know me, I like it when it is simple. The key is that intention is everything. You can simply light a candle for your ancestors. You can create a small altar with a photo, an object, a flower, glass of water. Water, by the way, is an excellent messenger to pass on messages. You can write a letter to a departed loved one. Tell them what you wanted to say. You can write a letter in a sacred journal. You can burn that letter mindfully and safely in an act of release. You can offer a little food or drink in homage, maybe a piece of bread, a piece of fruit, a sip of tea. You know how I like my tea here. And I just want to say something here about leaving food um, for ancestors. You don't have to let the food rot, okay? I don't like when things get, like when food goes bad for nothing. I mean, spirit cannot eat your food or drink your tea. And that's actually something that I asked my mother in law when I got married. I had two weddings. If you don't know, my husband is Laotian and I am French Canadian. So we had one Laotian wedding in France where my whole step family lives. And we had one regular wedding, not so traditional wedding here in Montreal. So both our families could assist to one of our weddings. And when it was my Lao wedding, we did a very traditional wedding. My husband is the only male. He only has sisters, so he's the only son, and it was a big thing. His family comes from royalty, so they did the whole royal Laotian wedding, like the way we were dressed, all the traditions that we had in our weddings that my sister-in-law, my sisters-in-law didn't even get. But because my husband was the only son, it was the big thing. And so there were those offerings, food offerings. And I was looking at them after the wedding. Celebration started to be a bit over, like it was only close friends and family who were staying with us in the house. And I went to see my mother in law and I asked, what about those offerings? Like, what are you doing with them? Are we allowed to touch them or is it a big no no? What's going on? Are we going to let that rot? And she went, oh my God, no. If you're hungry, just go grab yourself something. Like the ceremony is over. It's fine. So you can do your ceremony. And once you're done, maybe an hour afterwards or whatever, whenever it feels good, you say thank you and you just grab your food back and you enjoy it, okay? So I just wanted to make that clear. So going back to practices, you can pull a tarot or an oracle card and ask a simple yet potent question. And if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you can look at this. I have so many oracle decks. It's just part of them. The screen doesn't even show all of them. I just love them so much. That oracle. I also have tarot hidden here and there. And your questions don't need to be complicated. Just go with what flows to you. Try to have open ended questions. You can ask, What message do my ancestors have for me for the coming dark season? Which shadow needs to be seen now? Or what small concrete action opens the next door for me? Another thing you can do is that you can simply sit for a few minutes in the dark, breathe, feel, and let yourself be surprised by maybe a shiver, an image, or a memory rising up. So, those are often your answers. And if you feel Samhain stirring a deeper call to connect with the unseen, know that you are not alone. I've created a channeling cheat sheet to help you learn the basics of connecting with your soul guides, your spirit team. And so that helps you. You know, when you start, you often wonder, I think I received a message, but did I just make it up? Was it just my imagination or was it truly my spirit team? So I have a very clear cheat sheet which tells you if you experience this, it's a true message. If you experience that, that is not channeling. And there's also my channeling course. If you want to go deeper, I show you step by step how to connect with the unseen world in a safely manner, so you can ask your spirit guides questions and receive clear answers. And I want to say here that my courses, I have a channeling course, I have Akashic Records courses, all of these, it is me recording videos, talking about my techniques, recording meditations, talking to you on video, talking about my experiences. So it is 100% me. I do not use artificial intelligence to create the course. I created, and I tell you that because I've been seeing a lot of courses in Instagram ads where when you look at it, and I'm seeing it with Akashic Records courses, they're just selling you a PDF. It's a PDF course and it's a master, what did they call it? Like master resale rights. So someone used AI to create a course on how to open your Akashic Records. So AI wrote the PDF and then that person sells it to other people, giving them the right to sell it to other people. So you're actually buying a PDF from someone who may not be a true psychic and doesn't have the experience. And with me, like I've had the experience. I came from not being a psychic to developing those skills so I can bring you through this. And of course you get my support. You can email me, write to me, there's a forum in the class. So I just wanted to point out that my courses, it's really me teaching what I learned. So these resources, courses, channeling cheat sheet, they can truly support you if you want to deepen your bond with the unseen world. So what's the practical point of a shadow ritual at Samhain? So here are some very concrete examples. If emotional wounds are resurfacing, like regrets, resentment, old sadness, Samhain gives you a container to look at them without judgment. If you're looping in a limiting pattern, like, oh, I'm not deserving, I have to carry everything alone, or I keep sabotaging myself at the last minute, it's a powerful time at Samhain to name it and to kind of soften the edges around it. Give yourself some self love and not judging yourself and just seeing what's happening here. And if you're closing a chapter, like a relationship, a job, a life, big life stage, Samhain gives you words and gestures, practices to say goodbye and clear space for what's next. If you want to connect with your lineage and receive an ancestral blessing, this is an open door. And if you're unsure which direction to take, Shadow can reveal what you're avoiding, bringing clarity where things were blurry. So, is the veil thinner? Again, for me, the answer is still no, technically. But yes, we feel it more, and that's huge because when we cultivate together attention, remembrance, gratitude, it creates a field that's ripe for signs, reunions, and the quiet healings that change everything. And that is Samhain's gift. It's a conscious pause between two beats of the wheel of the year, where you can choose what you keep, what you release, and how you want to be reborn in a certain way. So if you would like structured support for this work, as a reminder, there is my book, Shadow and Light in Magic. It's in French. It's Ombre et Lumière en Magie. And I share there a complete Samhain ritual to work with your shadows while benefiting from the protection and guidance of the ancestors. And it is designed to bring clarity, release, and a real sense of inner renewal. So, on this note, I wish you a gentle, illuminating, and profound Samhain. Take a moment to set an intention, light your candle, listen for what wants to reveal itself to you. And if this episode felt supportive, share it, leave a review, and explore my resources if you'd like to go further in your connection with the unseen. And I will see you in the next episode where we resume our regular program schedule, if you will, where I will return to exploring the soul's journey with you. And I will talk about the soul ages and how many times your soul reincarnated. On this note, have a beautiful Halloween and I will see you soon. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to the Mystical and Practical podcast with Meli Guidance. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe to the channel and leave some stars, a thumbs up, or a comment. It truly helps to share the podcast with other old souls seeking a deeper understanding of the spirit world. If you're interested in getting an Akashic Records reading, a tarot reading, or joining one of my online courses, you will find all the details at meliguidance.com. This podcast was edited by plcm.ca and the original music was composed by record.bandcamp.com. Until next time, remember, we are all souls having a human experience and we can all be mystical and practical.